Okay, so guys, we got to talk about whether or not black conservatives overlook racism. Let's look into it, man.
Welcome and thank you for joining us for The Factor Uncensored tonight. First up, our focus turned to black conservatives who support President Trump. This is an issue that's ripped from the pages of Nation.com, an article there. Some have accused President Trump of racism on multiple occasions. Last year, he said black voters Welcome and thank you for joining us for The Factor Uncensored tonight. First up, our focus turned to black conservatives who support President Trump. This is an issue that's ripped from the pages of Nation.com, an article there. Some have accused President Trump of racism on multiple occasions. Last year, he said black voters are drawn to him because of his criminal indictments and mugshot, a statement some have called racist, while black conservative supporters not speaking out, according to critics, is an issue. Is there any truth to black conservatives being at peace with this so-called racism? Or is this the answer more complex? Joining us to talk about it here on The Factor Uncensored tonight, members of the Urban Conservatives of America, Rael Williams, Alexandra Butler, the group's founder, Jonathan McCullough, and former president of NAACP, Brazoria County, Eugene Howard, who's not a member of the group, and you'll soon see. But let's begin with you guys. For those who say there's a lot of racism that you have to stomach as a black conservative supporting President Trump, what would you say to that?
Personally, I would say that I've ignored a lot of racism from the left. When Joe Biden said that he said poor people are just as bright and talented as white people, that's a racist comment. There's types of racism that seem to go ignored and unnoticed by the left and the right, but it's the racism of low expectations that I can't ignore. And so that's why I brought that up first, is because the racism that they want us to overlook is the racism coming from the left.
All right, let's go down the line, sir, Mr. McCullough.
Yes. Racism to me is not what someone says, it's what they do. And I think this is what makes us different from the left, because we're not watching, what people is saying. We're watching what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, a leader, a president, a politician, whatever you are, is based on policy. So if you can show me policy that affects or that you can call racism, then I'll agree. But up to this point, I have yet to see anything that he's put into law that affects black people negatively.
Eyes wide shut.
All right. Mr. Williams, Ultra MAGA. What you got?
Ultra MAGA. Trump has been great for black people. If you look at the statistics, black unemployment was at the highest rates when he was in office. You go down and you look at, he just declassified the MLK files, something Barack Obama didn't do when he was in office.
Of course not.
So I mean, you people are saying he's racist, but he's doing things that presidents that were of color didn't even do.
That's right.
I mean, hold on, wait, let me finish.
It's only been one. Don't say it.
So again, Trump is the man. I support him hands down, because what he's done for black people is literally like you can't compare it to anything.
Right. And before we get to Eugene, let me ask you this question, the crux of that interview, that article. Do you see racism in the conservative movement that you're a part of? Obviously, you've already said you see it everywhere, but do you see it in the organization? Either of you?
Well, here's the thing. How are we defining racism? Once again, I mean, if we're going to define racism
okay, really, you know what racism is. So just tell me if you have seen it, if you experienced.
I know what racism is, but I can't speak for everybody else.
Well, let me say something.
Go ahead.
Okay, so when somebody on the left sees me, a black woman, and just assumes I'm poor or ignorant, or they're like, "Oh my goodness, you speak so well," they're so shocked about that. Why are they shocked about it? That is racism. I overlook that a lot because I'm saying they don't know any better. That happens to me a lot lot from people on the left. They think that they're my ally. I need their hand. I need them to come in and save me. And I don't. I need God. I don't need them. They're not my Messiah or my Savior. So Malcolm X said it best. You know, the liberal is the enemy of the black man. And we can see it right clearly before our eyes. They look at us like we're scum. They look at us like we're poor. And black people are falling for the okie doke. And they're saying, oh, the white man is better than us. He's supreme over us. That's what white supremacy is. Right. I don't believe anybody is superior over me. I don't live my life that way. So I just live according to freedom and liberty.
All right, let's hear from Eugene.
Please, man, I've been in this twilight zone. Like, I've been patiently over here at the tail dog position. So first of all, if you can't see the racism, your eyes are just closed. You said it's not about what people say about policy. So let's just run it down real quick. They removed the Harriet Tubman from the National Archives. So, I mean, Harriet was what? I'm sorry, the Trump administration. I'm going to be very clear.
But they didn't.
I'm sorry, they did. And
You're
because
wrong.
of that, no.
Okay,
I let them speak.
Hold on, real quick, guys. Let him go, and then
Thank you.
We have two segments.
Thank you. They removed it, and then they had to put it back after backlash. The same thing they did with the Tuskegee Airmen. They removed that and had to put that back. Trump is literally trying to dismantle Black America. They literally had an executive order to the Smithsonian that did not want to fund African American Cultural Museum because they feel like that's anti-racism or that's reverse racism. Now, as we sit here, we have to be intellectually honest because you guys are being intellectually dishonest. If you can't sit here and tell us, if you can, everyone's watching on TV. Don't take my word for it.
You've lied.
On TV, you see it yourself. Listen, I'm reading for myself. All I've heard about the leftists. What about this? Last time I checked, the Trump administration is the one cutting the Medicaid, cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare. They're the ones that's cutting education. Last time I checked, Joe Biden, you talked about unemployment was the lowest under Donald Trump. My guy. Joe Biden had the lowest unemployment. Like you guys want to forget about that.
You voted for Joe Biden.
I mean, you can cherry pick that. You can cherry pick whatever you want. Just like Trump said. Just like Trump said. If you're a felon, you right.
Eugene, let's hear from Mr. McCullough.
Well, basically, he's proving the point. He started talking about the
policy.
His whole conversation was statues and this, that, and the third.
Policy.
What does that have to do with the price of gas? Nothing.
Well, see, here's the thing. What happened with Joe Biden and his administration is that they expanded their government and created more federal jobs for the federal government. And then they propped it up in a way where it looks like they created more jobs for the American people, but they didn't. Most of the American people work in the private sector, not in the federal government. Most Black people work in the private sector, not in the federal government. So what they basically did was basically tricked y'all into believing that they created more jobs for the average American citizen, which includes Black people, but they really didn't. They just expanded and created more federal government jobs. Let's talk about DEI. When you see them basically adding in DEI, who did that benefit the most? Liberal white women, the LGBTQ. Okay, that's another thing.
What does the price of gas have to do with being Black? What does the price of gas have to do with being Black?
Because at the end of the day, whether gas prices, grocery prices go up or down, you are still Black. So it don't matter. You were born Black, you gonna die Black. So what do that have anything to do with being Black? What do that have anything to do with being Black? Y'all are worried about the wrong things once again. What do anything of them, even if they tried to move any of those statues, you still Black. You still black. You were born black. You're gonna die black. Them removing Harriet Tubman from the museum ain't gonna stop you from being black. Neither of those things are gonna stop you from being black.
And the
Being
viewer,
black
hey,
is
listen,
not my
McCullough,
choice.
the viewer can't understand you.
I'm sorry,
You're
I'm
that
sorry,
loud.
I'm sorry.
We're going to take a
Ain't
quick break
nothing
here,
gas.
and we'll
Ain't
get right
black
back.
getting nothing to be
All right,
do
sir.
with gas.
Okay,
One second, Eugene. Don't go anywhere. We'll continue this conversation after the break. If I don't, I'm probably going to get my ass kicked. Welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. We're continuing our conversation about the outlook of or being at peace with so-called racism antics in the conservative movement. Our guests are here, and they all say that just doesn't happen. And we will pick back up with Mr. McCullough. Your thoughts now after hearing Eugene.
Well, as I said, one thing that I don't do, once again, I could care less about what people says or what someone else's interpretation about what they said. I'm a free thinker. I process it, I listen to it, and I watch. If Donald Trump is the problem,
Let's be honest. If they remove both, if the prices of gas go up and they still remove any of those statutes, you still you're not gonna care about being black. If you sitting there and you poor and you can't afford to pay your bills, the last thing you gonna be if he worried about is being black. That's the last thing you gonna be worried about.
why do our communities look the way they look? Explain that to me. How is
Can I
that
respond
possible?
to that?
How is it possible?
I mean, it's a system.
Answer that question.
It's a
Whose system?
It's the.
Is it
the
Donald
American-
Trump's system?
It's called systemic issues, brother. It's more than one.
Oh, so it's not
bigger
Trump,
than-
it's systemic.
Bro, just don't try to change the subject.
He goes to say systemic issues that black people who they have voted into power had the power to turn around and fix, but refused to do so. You have a black mayor of Chicago that's literally gentrifying black people. Literally. That's literally gentrifying black people that will prioritize illegal immigrants over black Chicagoans. But we gonna sit there and blame it on systematic racism. You had a black president that prioritized the LGBTQ community over black people. You had a mayor of Dalton that was black woman that was stealing people's taxpayer dollars and spending it on herself. But we're going to talk about systematic racism. Okay.
Subject because
What do
you
you
don't
mean?
want to be
No,
down
I'm trying
with
to
Trump.
remain on the subject.
I'm willing
Can I
to say there's
respond to-
systemic issues, there's systemic problems in this country. There has been since 1619, since we got here, bro. So if you want to talk about that, we can talk about why our housing look.
And bro, none of y'all black Democrats even advocate to even fix those problems. Y'all have an HR 40 bill that y'all constantly keep saying that y'all need to study in order to pass it. When you had basically multiple opportunities. Obama could have did it. Kamala could have did it. But neither one did. Neither one of them did anything for black people. But this is what they'll tell you. It's systematic racism. So you mean to tell me that the black people that y'all vote for to be in these powerful positions, to be a part of the system, can't advocate or try to fix the black community because of systematic racism? You have black legislators who literally could have worked on getting the HR 40 bill passed for black people that have not done it in whatsoever. That have not done it whatsoever. Now, why is that? Maybe I can tell you this. They too damn worried about racism and white supremacy. Now, let me go full on fledged right now. In 1964, when they passed the Civil Rights Act bill, you know who held the House majority? Republicans did. You had Southern Democrats that voted against it. Southern Democrats that voted against it. This is the history that they don't necessarily tell you about the Republican Party. This is literally the history that they don't necessarily tell you about the Republican Party. Your favorite girl, Kamala Harris, had Planned Parenthood at her rallies. Planned Parenthood was established by Margaret Sanger, a racist white woman. Part of the eugenics class. It is known for their racist ideologies towards black people of that time. And I believe she was also a KKK member. But let's keep going.
Look like they do. Or if you want to talk about slavery,
I got a
Jim
question.
Crow,
I got
segregation, we can
I got
go
a
down
question.
the list,
I
bro.
got a question.
So
Okay, one
like
at a
we
time,
have to
real
be
quick.
intellectually honest.
Okay,
dog.
let's be intellectually honest. Let me tell you something. The black community is the most dangerous place in the world for a black man. So if we want to be
Oh my God.
intellectually honest, am I right or wrong?
You're wrong.
And
Yeah.
Mr. McCullough,
That's
for
not
those who are
reality.
wondering what you talk, explain that.
Well, it's dangerous. Let's
Wow.
just be real. Listen, the violent culture in the black community will not be addressed by black people because we're too busy worried about white supremacy, right? The safest place is the white community. Keep it 100.
Yeah.
Keep it 100. Then,
He keeps
in certain cities of Chicago, in certain parts of Chicago, statistically speaking, black people create the most heinous crimes. Now, that doesn't necessarily involve black on white crimes, but that's black on black crime. That's black on black crime. But they're not going to talk about that. They're not going to talk about that. They're going to keep it focused on systematic racism. Systematic racism and white supremacy is the problem for everything that happens in the black community. But we gonna continue voting for Democrats who done turned around and done dismantled the black community countless of times. He want to talk about Republicans dismantling black America? Look at what your favorite Democrats have done over the past years. Gentrification. May I turn around and circle back to what Mayor Johnson is doing in Chicago? A black man who then took away shots fired, defunded the police, And we know that hurts the black community way worse than anything. Did I say he took away shots fired? Oh, and he shut down some of them schools and allowed illegal immigrants to stay in them. Some of them recreational centers that they had, shut them down. Allow the illegal immigrants to take place for shelter. Then you turning around and you're forcing black Chicagoans to pay for them through the federal tax dollars. This the same black man that ran on a campaign that said he wouldn't do that. But we not gonna talk about it. We're not gonna talk about these black Democrats that they continue to vote for that is stealing from black people, stealing money out of their pocket, which will absolutely be a crucial thing that will help black people gain more power as a community. See, the thing that the guy that's all the way at the end, the black guy is only focused on statutes being removed rather than the focus on the actual problem. Black people don't have no economical power. That's why they don't have the representation. But what we're going to continue doing is continue voting for black Democrats who do nothing but get up in there and steal your money.
Keep saying we got to be intellectually honest, but you have to first be an intellectual to be honest. Ooh. So we're seeing right now.
Hold on, so you don't take a jab?
We're seeing,
we're
seeing weaponized incompetence in action through when Trump gets rid of redundant civil rights bills, DEI bills. We're seeing weaponized incompetence. Oh, he got rid of this. He must hate black people. So let's end all this for black people. Somebody at the top of another part of an organization is
The thing is, the guy that's from the NAACP, I bet you if they ask him how come they never passed the HR 40 bill, which is basically reparations for black people, he's not going to have no answer for that. If we go deep down into history, Ulysses S. Grant is the one who outlawed the KKK, a Republican president. A Republican president is the one who outlawed the KKK. When Republicans had the House majority in 1964, they are the ones that basically were able to pass the Civil Rights Bill, the Civil Rights Act. When in the South, you had Southern Democrats who did not vote, who voted against it. And then Lyndon B. Johnson comes out and say, if we pass this bill, we would have Negroes voting for Democrats for the next 200 plus years. right? See, the reason why we always bring up what the left has done to black people is because for many, many, many years, we have been told that Republicans are white supremacists, Republicans are racist, Republicans don't like black people. Now, let's be very clear. No political party is perfect. Going back from Ronald Reagan to JFK, all of them had flaws about them. The problem with black people is that it's black people that's out here hurting black people economically. It's black people that want to get up on the front stage and say I'm for this, but then turn around and basically don't put no action to it.
Is the one doing that. Trump didn't say, I'm writing an executive order to get rid of Harriet Tubman. He never said any of these things.
No.
So you're being intellectually dishonest.
I'm not. It's called an
All right.
administration.
No,
So hold on. Let me
Okay,
go back.
let's hear from Eugene
said,
really quick, and
I'm
then
not
you,
an
Mr.
intellect.
Williams, next.
Okay. As the only sensible black person sitting up here, like on TV, let's let them decide who has the intellect and who doesn't. As we sit here and speak policy. Now, secondly, you talk about actions. Going back to Harriet Tubman, you know, Harriet Tubman did have a little tool that she used to carry. All I would say is like I'm so glad we all free, because all of us wouldn't have made it if we was walking with Harriet right now. Because all of us would not have made it. Because Harriet was very strict, because we all know all skin folk ain't kinfolk, all skin folk ain't down for the struggle. There's no way.
That's an emotional
no, you can say whatever it is.
That's emotional.
There's no place.
Emotionalism.
Hold on, let me finish my point. If you want to say if you want to say the most dangerous place for a black man is the black community, there's no place safe.
Let me tell you something. Facts prove that.
You know what? The most dangerous place is the womb of a black woman.
Let's hear from Mr. Williams.
Black communities have the highest crime rates, Isaiah.
Keep it real.
I mean, let's just be honest, all right? Like
Yes.
you ride.
And they also have the highest poverty. Is poverty not a part of that?
Hold on, let me
We're not
finish.
talking about
But if you're talking about Donald Trump and what he's done for black people,
Thing is, you talking about poverty, but who are the ones that won't fix? Who are the ones that you are voting for that has the power to fix that? Black Democrats. Instead of taking, they should be giving to other black people. But they want to continue to take. They want to fill their own pockets up and put their own family members on game. But y'all don't say nothing about that. Y'all don't say nothing about that. And I hate the fact that they tried their best to argue against him. He didn't have no argument, but they tried their best to argue against him, and they didn't really do that good. That's why I said this conversation it was not really productive. A lot of emotions were flying. And this is what you get when you have black conservatives debating black liberals. Because black liberals are only focused on short-term things that don't have no effect on their community whatsoever. He's talking about them removing the statutes and things like that. What about your economical policies? Your economical policies have a long-term effect than anybody removing those statutes. Because at the end of the day, if you're dealing with high gas prices, it don't matter if you're black or white. If you can't afford to own a home, it ain't gonna matter if you're black or white. If you can't afford eggs at the grocery store, it ain't gonna matter if you're black or white. if you can't pass down generational wealth for your family to inherit, or if you can't do group economics to keep the money within your own community, it ain't gonna matter if you black or white. The problem is black people do not practice group economics. They don't. Dr. Jean Claude Anderson said this. They don't practice group economics. They don't. Black people tend to be more consumers than they are money savers. But see, black Democrats don't talk about that. Black liberals don't talk about that. They want to be pinpointed on racism and white supremacy, which does nothing but victimize black people even more.
What has he
You
done?
got to remember.
Please tell me what he's
Jesse
done.
Jackson, right?
What has Donald
What
Trump
did he
done?
do for him?
Tell me what Donald Trump
did
All
he
right,
do for
Eugene,
Jesse
let him
Jackson?
finish. Let him
Gotcha.
What
finish,
did he do?
Eugene.
He helped Jesse Jackson form Black Wall Street.
We talking.
Okay,
What
hold on,
He
wait,
did.
hold on. He gave how much to the black community?
I don't know. You tell me.
Close to $80 billion.
80 billion.
How?
$80 billion.
In what? In what?
$80 billion.
In what?
What you talking
gotta do your
about?
research.
You just, you just can't throw numbers out. And he
But
got
you throwing rhetoric out there.
Here we go. Now they want to try to. Now he finna try to shut him down. Now he finna try to shut him down. Now why is that? Why is that? Because just a minute ago, he was just shouting that Donald Trump is racist. He got to talking about them cutting Medicare, which that is a lie. He got them talking about cutting Social Security. That's another lie. He basically is regurgitating the normal talking points for the Democratic Party. That's all he's really doing. He's regurgitating the normal talking points that most black liberals have when it comes to politics. And it's not basically, he's not even showing anything that Donald Trump has done bad. Listen, Donald Trump is who he is. Donald Trump is who he is. You ain't gonna be able to change that man. He's a man that's unfiltered, that says anything that comes to mind. That's it. But y'all are so hell bent on racism and white supremacy that you are basically blocking yourself from actually receiving your blessings or actually creating something for black people. Y'all do not even study group economics. Black people don't. Because soon as they get their dollar, what happens? They spend it. It goes out and it never comes back in. So with that being said and done, it's black people that hurts black people. It's black people that robs from black people. Let's keep
education? Was it housing? Was it reform?
One at a time.
Yes.
One at a time.
Don't say yes.
All of
Like,
this.
give me something. I gave you the policy.
Go research, bro.
You already
Oh, man,
said
come on. Y'all the intellectual. Remember, you should have answers.
Hold on. On top of that,
Intellectual geniuses.
okay.
No, it's not about that, man. It's not,
Guys, what
can I say?
Okay. On top of that, again, he declassified MLK files, something Barack Obama did
Man,
not
he
do.
declassified his
Okay.
sex tapes. You interested
Hold
in that?
on, hold
I'm
on,
so glad you so
hold on.
probably got
excited
sex
about
tapes.
that.
Hold on,
You
hold on.
probably got sex tapes
Congratulations,
of y'all, boy.
Great.
So now
Come
we
on,
know,
Eugene.
so
We got to
now
hear
we
each
know
other.
who killed MLK. Okay. Donald Trump has always been for the black man.
He's the greatest president
never
America
been
has ever
the black
seen.
man.
Clear. More than just sex tapes were declassified, sir. More than just MLK sex tapes were declassified. The things that came out, which a lot of people pretty much knew already. He was hanging out with a bunch of communists. That's A. And I'm not even gonna go dive deep into that because I don't remember everything.
Stand down and wait
All right,
for it.
Mr. McCullough, you have the last 30 seconds.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Let me tell you something. Here's what we have to stop doing. We have to stop assuming that all black people have to think alike.
Thank you.
We
I
have to
don't
stop.
think like y'all,
Hold
so we
on. That is racism in and
I
of
don't think
itself
like
within
y'all.
the black
Oh
community.
my God!
You
Wow.
just-
Because
listen,
I don't think like y'all. I'm
Trump,
Can I
racist.
finish?
did
Boy, you
more for
lost.
the black
Gotcha.
community than Barack
Can-
Obama.
can I-
A black man.
can I finish?
A black
There's
man.
a reason.
Answer that. Answer that.
There's a reason President Trump is the first president in modern history
Thank
to
you.
crack the black vote and get majority of the black support.
Come on.
And also crash
That's
the
not
economy
a
with
joke.
A-Main
This is
issue.
real. You know why?
Thank you
crashing
guys
the
for
economy
joining us
just
here on
because
the
he felt
Factor
like
on Citizen. Alexander,
having us.
don't get in trouble after the commercial break.
And
Clearly, that was a very unproductive conversation because a lot of emotions start to fly. Now we're going to turn around and go to the next video. I believe the next video is pretty much where this woman dated only far-right men for a year. Here we go with the profiling. Here we go with the profiling.
UFC star turned podcaster Jake Shields to explore the manosphere and why exactly it's so popular.
They speak liberal, they have liberal friends, and then they go online and they are a white supremacist.
This is Vera Papasova. She spent the last year dating far-right men in New York City for a story for Cosmopolitan magazine.
They're the most insecure men I've ever sat down with. It was really difficult to have.
Listen, I don't understand how the hell is CNN still around. Look at what this says. This woman dated only far-right men for a year. They were so insecure. Are you kidding me? So someone who probably has certain political views or views about relationships that don't align with you they're insecure. And this is why CNN gets the bad rep that they have right now. They are the most slouchiest, slimy ass reporting news station that you can clearly see.
Some of these dates because they were so insecure, because they don't really know who they are and they don't know how to figure that out.
She said
I'm so sick and tired of these type of women always calling somebody insecure, saying they don't know who they are. I bet you she talking about incels too. All because they don't want to align with her point of views and ideologies. Wow. Especially when it comes to relationships. Wow.
she said the men she dated got all their news and information from the so-called manosphere.
They did not listen to anything else. They're only listening to independent media and they're only listening to men talking to men.
The manosphere is made up of macho podcasters and influencers.
There's no such thing as an independent female.
So they only get their news from independent podcasters. They only listen to, it's men listening to men. But wait a minute. It's what women listen to other women. Does that not happen as well too? And a lot of times the advice that these other women give these women keeps them single. Is I don't know what. Keeps them single. But okay, it's not okay for men to listen to other men. But yet still it's okay for women to turn around and only validate what other women are saying who don't listen to the men at all. But you got a problem when the men are listening to only men and not women. Wow. Honestly, this is what you call selfish, narcissistic, and jealousy.
Female. Most women have zero concept of like money.
Females don't have independent thought.
It's a space where UFC fighters are among those who reign supreme.
They love the UFC guys. They love the MMA guys because those guys do what they can. They're modern gladiators. They're badass.
Badass like Jake Shields, a former UFC star turned podcaster.
All right. Now I'm starting to feel nervous. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course.
Who I met at an MMA gym in Las Vegas.
Like all great MMA.
Oh my God. So we are now witnessing firsthand, well, once again, this is one of the reasons why these hoes stay single. Oh, excuse my language.
MMA pros.
Here we go with the stereotyping. All of these men are insecure and incels. They only listen to men. Meanwhile, you probably the type of woman that spend majority of your time listening to other women. invalidating other women's feelings about men. Then I bet you she gonna sit there and talk about how lonely these men are, but yet still we see women on these social media platforms talking about how they can't get a man, men won't approach them anymore. Black women over here talking about black men not desiring to marry them anymore. But it's the men that's lonely. Okay.
I've never hit anyone in my life.
I'm not punching back. Hit me. No, sit right here. KO.
This is CNN. Do you miss being full-time pro, like in terms of?
You know, of course I miss it. To go from professional athlete, which is the highest of highs, to retirement.
And I guess the
podcast has helped. You could fall into depression if you just go from the most amazing career where you're famous and spotlights to all of a sudden you're a nobody.
Sure.
Like other podcasters in the manosphere, Jake regularly hosts controversial guests.
And I named the podcast Fighting Back. I feel like we have to fight back what we're told we're allowed to do. I just don't like to be told you're not allowed to talk to this person. Like, why can't I talk to him? I'm not saying I agree with his ideology, but I should hear what he has to say.
He's hosted the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan.
Today I have a very, very special guest, Dr. David Duke. I knew you're controversial, but I had no idea how controversial.
And Thomas Russo, the leader of the white supremacist group Patriot Front.
Let's go where we disagree a little bit.
Yes, sure.
Let's hit race, because you're a white only.
This is why I say CNN is the most slimiest goddamn news reporter station I ever seen. They pick they pick a certain sector of things and throw it at you. And this is how they paint it. I bet you they done turned around and done painted this man to be a white supremacist, all because he had a Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan on his show and another leader of a white supremacist group on his show. Mind you, this man has a whole podcast. But this is what CNN gonna do. They're gonna turn around and they're gonna paint the manosphere as being no more than a bunch of guys who hate women, who are white supremacists, Ku Klux Klan members, and incels. Here go brainwashing all over again.
Only group.
So the organization only allows people of American ethnicity, and all Americans, I believe, come from Europe, so they're white.
The true heirs of the American spirit fight on! Yeah, no, I understand and talk to these guys, but I've also not brought anyone hateful. If I do, I'm going to be really on top of them.
But so you saying that you haven't brought someone hateful on, right? People say, well, you brought on the Grand Wizard of the KKK, you brought on Patriot Front.
Yeah.
They're hateful.
No, I think those are excellent questions, but people go and watch the actual interviews, I think they would be like, oh, this guy's not near as hateful as if I expect it.
But Vera says hate isn't what the men she dated were really looking for.
One of these guys brought me to a political meeting.
And did they talk about politics?
Barely. They talked about, it was a bunch of men complaining about girlfriends and wives, regurgitating Andrew Tate type of advice about how to train your girlfriend, how to train your wife to be submissive. And so this group was supposed to be a political group, but they're talking about relationship problems. And the fact that that's what most of the time was spent on, you don't need to be a neo-Nazi. You need therapy.
The appeal of Jake's podcast speaks to a need among young men in this country that Vera says can't be ignored.
You have to incentivize someone to want to be better. You can't just say, let's make men better. The thing about these guys is their biggest support system is online, but that also is very isolating, and isolation is what breeds hatred.
Groups like Patriot Front offer community, but community based on race.
Talk about women isolating themselves to only validate other women and listen to other women and refuse to listen to the men that they want to date. Okay.
Racism and hate.
People have to really think about, do you have the capacity to talk to people that you don't agree with? Because that one nice conversation you might have might change someone's day enough to not have to seek out help in an online support group, which is actually a bunch of white supremacists using political beliefs as an excuse for how they feel.
Donnie O'Sullivan is here with us now. Donnie, I'm so glad you've done this special. There's so much intrigue around this issue of the manosphere. And in fact, Trump is going to the UFC tonight. How big of a role does the sport play in the manosphere?
Hey, Isabel. Yeah, and look, we should point out at the start here, there's tons of guys who are fans, and some women as well, who are fans of the UFC. I have many friends who are fans of the UFC. It certainly does not mean, that if you are a fan of the UFC, you are falling sort of down this rabbit hole of hate and white supremacy and everything else. But what we are seeing is that there is this sort of, there is this crossover. The UFC is playing a greater and bigger role, really, in American life. Joe Rogan, who's the world's biggest podcaster, is a UFC commentator. Dana White, who is the founder of the UFC, is a prominent Trump supporter and was recently appointed to the board of Meta by Mark Zuckerberg himself, another big MMA and UFC fan. And actually fighting tonight in Miami. Trump is going to the event. We're not sure if he'll be there for the earlier fights, but fighting tonight in Miami at the UFC event is a fighter by the name of Bryce Mitchell, who recently set up a podcast of his own. And on his debut episode a few months ago, he said that Hitler was a quote unquote good guy or a great guy. Dana White, the head of the UFC, was quick to condemn that. But, you can just kind of see there where folks who might be coming into this sport for one reason are a fan of fighting, and then they're getting exposed to views like Bryce Mitchell's.
So see, now you heard that. He said, well, yeah, see, now you heard that. That is pretty much the end of the show. I really want you guys to let me know what you think about the black conservative versus racism thing. And like, comment, and subscribe, and we out. Peace.